Nathaniel Sperger with the Women's Business Center. I'm repeating this for some of you, but people are currently joining as I speak. So I think one of the best ways to interact with the Women's Business Center is through one-on-one business counseling, because it's the best way for us to talk to you directly about what you are doing, what is your business about, what you're trying to achieve, what stage of your business you're in. And that way you also become part of the Women's Business Center, and we can share information with you and keep track of you and know what's happening and be in relationship with you as well. So check that out. Information is in the chat. You would go to our website and schedule a one-on-one business counseling, or check out any other of our events. We have a lot of resources available. Our e-learning platform is a place you can go and take classes that are on there, all related to business at any time, anywhere, at your leisure. There's an app for it as well. It's e-learning platform. There's a website there. If you click that, you can register. It's all free. Everything we do is free, by the way. And keep track of our events, because we're doing a lot more in-person stuff. We're trying to create more ways for us and people that we partner with, organizations, the government, the SBA, and you, to interact and have networking sessions and time to talk to each other. So I am here with Nan Wilkinson from helpKNX. She was with us one time before in a session like this, and she was also with us in our conference. It's something we've been moving and trying to get more of, is this food business startup and food related information. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to think about. You will not get everything here. You'll probably have to do some more digging and more information, but part of this is also a way for you to know where to dig and where to get information. So I'll hand it over to Nan, and she can introduce herself, tell us about helpKNX, and we'll start this conversation. And thank you all for being with us.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And I do want to say thank you all for letting me be with you today. And thank you all for taking the time to come and be with us. So greatly appreciate that. As Nathaniel said, so I've been in the food business for over 40 years. And I've been a chef. I've owned my own restaurant. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about some of that here in just a minute. But currently, I actually work for a food service provider as my day job. But as he mentioned, I also own helpKNX, and it's really a passion of mine. And it's one of the things that I think really affects our industry more than anything, and that's the labor force. So I created a free website so that you can post your job needs, or if you're looking for a job in the restaurant industry, you can look for a job completely free, specifically for the hospitality industry. So we're going to have a link. I think Nathaniel and I were discussing, we're going to send out a follow-up email, because we are going to cover a lot of stuff. We'll have all sorts of links in there, not only to the website where, if you're looking for employees or you want to look for a job currently, that you can do that, as well as many other links to different things that we'll talk about, so that you can have other resources after this. Because I'm sure we're not going to hit everything that everyone is wanting to know about, but we certainly will do the best that we can. So, but we will send that follow-up email with lots of different links. So look for that. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background. So like I said, I've been doing this for over 40 years. Grew up in a household full of families that love to cook. Both sides of my grandparents love to cook, and I just always wanted to do it. So I finished college, but before I did that, I thought I was going to go to culinary school. So when I went to apply for culinary school, they said, you have to have experience, at least some experience, professional. I'm like, oh, I don't have that. So I started working in a hotel in Williamsburg at the Williamsburg Inn, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought, this is it. So I finished college. I thought, I don't even want to do any more schooling right now. I just want to keep cooking. And so I did that. I worked in Williamsburg a little bit longer, worked at the Trellis, finished college. Then I moved out to Los Angeles, where I worked in several really great restaurants there, cooked for some celebrities. I had my own catering company. And then from there, I moved up to Washington State with a friend of mine, and we opened a restaurant up there called Passport Restaurant, where we did foods from all around the world. And then we opened a bakery and deli, again, doing lots of catering, did some hearth breads, like I said, catering to all sorts of people, from, intimate 8 to 10 people gatherings to, 300 plus gatherings. So did that. Then my son was born. So I moved back to the East Coast to be close to family, and just always loved to cook. And so I thought, what am I going to do with a young one? So I started working for SYSCO Foods, which puts me right back in the industry. So I actually sell food to customers for a living. Again, anything from hotels, assisted. If you make food, I can sell food to you, basically. But during that, I also thought, I just love to cook. I just can't not be doing this. So I started a food truck. So I had the food truck for a while. It was a little more than I could handle with my day job and the food truck. And quite honestly, just finding enough staff was part of the problem as well. So I sold my food truck, have continued to work with SYSCO. And then that's when I decided I need to help this industry, because I felt compelled to do that, to try to help people not only find work and to create this platform, but more importantly, to help people create an environment in their business where people wanted to work, because we just haven't attracted enough new people. And without going down that path too much, that's how helpKNX was born. And I'm passionate about trying to help our industry continue to grow, continue to attract new people, whether it's business owners like yourself or employees to help the business owners grow. So that's where I am now. So done a little bit of just about everything. Haven't done any cruise ships or anything like that, but I feel like I've touched a lot of different places in the food service industry. So I'm going to try to share what I know, some of the pitfalls that I've run up against, some of the things that I've heard other people talk about, pitfalls that they may have had, and maybe some ways to address some of those. I think the first thing to me that's most important is to really determine what you want to do. And for me, I knew I loved to cook. I knew I wanted to have my own business. And so as I've talked to more people, I guess in my head, I feel like if you love the industry, that's kind of what everybody wants to do. But that's not necessarily true. I actually was talking to a lady a month or so ago who started a business. It's not a restaurant, but it's a food business. I won't go into what it is, but she enjoys it. But she really started it because she wanted an opportunity to have a business that she could franchise. And I didn't think about it as something that you could a business that you could just create to franchise. For me, it was a business to create in. So anyway, people have many, many different reasons why they go into this business. And I think that it's important to decide what that is for each individual person, because it is a lot of work, especially if you want to own your own restaurant or a food truck. I love it. I'm passionate about it. And so I have the energy for that. But, it can be a lot of work. So I think that's really important, is to decide what path you want to go down. And talking about paths, so here's just a few ideas of things that you can do. Obviously, you can do a full service restaurant, a quick service restaurant, a food truck, a food cart, a ghost kitchen. You can do a cafe, specialty grocery store, a butcher shop, a deli, specialty food production. You can do specialty frozen foods. You can be a personal chef, a caterer, have franchises. So those are just a few things that you can do within this industry. So when you start going down that path and figuring out what you want to do, everything that I've read has said one of the best things to do is to put together a business plan. Well, I agree. However, I also think that sometimes we start looking at a business plan and we don't have enough information to even really put a business plan together. So while that I think is an important step to start considering different things like food cost and location and things like that, and kind of have an idea of what sort of funding you need, don't let it be a roadblock. And what I mean by that is, again, if you start looking at putting together a business plan, and again, you don't have all the answers, don't just go, I can't do it because I can't even get through the business plan. we can easily put roadblock up to things, but there's tons of people out there and tons of support. And as you continue to go down your path of what you think you might want to do, things will become apparent. And I guess that's one thing that I really want to share, because that's something that I hear so much from people is like, we see these things that we need to do and we go, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. You've got plenty of people and plenty of resources. Again, the Women's Business Center, the Small Business Association, lots of places, restaurants will help you. I will help you. Just reach out and we can kind of help you and go, yeah, that's pretty important to figure that piece out. Or, yeah, that's important, but don't let it hold you up too much. So I just kind of want to put that note out there, because I think it's easy to sort of put up roadblocks and kind of get discouraged. So try not to. Ask questions. That's one of the things I think, if you ask my family, I'm kind of famous for. If you don't have the answer to questions, don't be afraid to ask. If you don't know some of the things that you might need for the health department, get in your car, go down to your local health department and go in there. Those people are there, and just say, hey, I'm looking for the answers to these questions. And because some of the stuff, again, even if you go to their website, can be hard to figure out. And they're here to help you. That's what they get paid to do. So don't hesitate to just go down somewhere. Sometimes I know everybody's busy. We try to call and email. It's hard to be ignored when you're there in person. So I'm a big proponent of that. If you can, just go to where you need to go and try to get the answers you need to get. So we'll back up for a little bit. So again, we talked about, or I mentioned a lot of different avenues that you can go down in the food business. Depending on which avenue you want to go down, can be little to no money, or it can be lots of money. So again, that's part of what I think the decision needs to be for you people individually. What do you want to do? How much money can you, or are you willing to put up to start what you want to do? To me, one really great way to get started in the business is either like a ghost kitchen or using a commissary. There are lots of commissaries out there these days. Again, you can reach out to me, or we can try to put a list together of commissaries that are out there. And if you don't know, here's how the commissary works. It's pretty slick. You don't have to be any particular kind of business to rent a space in a commissary. You reach out to them and you tell them what your need is. Let's say you want to be a caterer. You just want to cater. So you would just they'll tell you like what the different options are, like for space wise and use for the refrigeration and freezer, and what those costs will be. And then you pay those monthly. And then after that, you have to obviously set up your own business, your own, state tax ID and federal tax ID and corporation or not partnership, but like if you're going to be limited liability or a sole proprietor. So you have to set that up. But once you do that, then you just lease the space. You come and go as you please. You buy the supplies that you need and you produce whatever it is that you're going to produce. And that's really all your costs is the space, the lease space, and whatever you buy for your food supplies or whatever other equipment you buy. So it's, in my opinion, it's sort of the easiest, quickest way to get into the industry. And again, once you have this commissary, it's like your own little kitchen. You can use it whenever you need. So some of the commissaries that I work with, they've got bakers, caterers, people that do like home meal replacement things. So they have like their own websites that they start up, and people will buy the home meal replacements and then they deliver them. Like I said, bakers, caterers, food trucks, food carts. You can really do just about anything that you want out of these commissaries. It's a pretty sweet way to go. Now, the other way you can go that's probably even less expensive is working out of your house. Now, if you work out of your house, you can only do foods that, this is probably not the right terminology, so don't hold me to this, but that are not hazardous. In other words, things that aren't going to make people sick. So again, if you want to bake something or prepare something that's not going to be harmful to people if it's not prepared correctly or whatever. And then if you're going to go that route, you obviously can use your home kitchen. There are a lot of regulations around that, which is fine. We can send you the link to that. That is going to be regulated by the Department of Agriculture. So you wouldn't even need to get the health department involved. But like I said, there's a lot of regulations around that, that you have to make sure that you can comply with before you go down that route, and that your product that you're going to produce falls within that acceptable range as well. So that's the quickest, probably not quickest, that's the least expensive way to go, I would say. But again, for me, I knew I wanted to do foods that could be hazardous, or, like poultry or dairy or things like that. So for me, having a place, a commissary or a restaurant or a food truck was the route I wanted to go. The nice thing about, again, the commissary, and I'm not trying to push commissaries, I'm just letting you know that I think it's an easy way to get started. They have the health department come out and they just check everything. So they are already going to come out on a regular basis and check everything and make sure the refrigeration and the freezer and the space itself is certified. So that's going to be taken care of for you. So it's, again, just a little bit of an easier route to go. If you decide you want a food truck, it's great. Food trucks are great. There's plenty out there that are highly successful. You can go out and you can find places that you can go that you don't even have to pay to be. I know when I had my food truck, I went and got some parts from, what's it called? I think, is it Boat World or Camper World? One of those, because I needed parts for my truck. And I went out there because they have bigger parts. And I said, hey, would you like for us to come out one weekend and set up in your parking lot here? And they were like, yeah, that would be amazing. So it wasn't going to cost me anything. I didn't have to split any profits. For them, it was kind of fun because it was like an activity going on in their parking lot and people could come up and buy whatever they want. So again, that's just one. There's lots of options to take your food truck out and have places to sell that you don't even have to pay to be. So lots more can be said about that. But that's going to probably be, besides a commissary, that's going to probably, a cart or a food truck is probably going to be your next least expensive route. There are probably some used food trucks out there that you can get. I would say that if you're going to design your own food truck from scratch, make sure that whoever's doing it for you is well aware of the regulations from the health department in the state and the county where you're going to be. So in other words, if you're getting a company out of Florida to build your food truck, or you're buying a food truck that's used out of Florida, make sure that maybe you get the health department again to sign off on it, or you get pictures of the food truck, so that when it gets here and the health department does come, because they're going to oversee this, that they go, yeah, this looks good, and you don't have to do a lot of refitting and changing of your food truck. So that's the only thing I'd say. Most people, if you're going to get it here in North Carolina, it's, they've already been certified in North Carolina, it's going to be pretty safe. But just be aware, even a brand new one being built somewhere else, make sure that they're building it to the specs here in North Carolina and that you get that checked through the health department first. That's the only kind of side note I would say there. But that's going to be, I believe, your next route that's the least expensive. And then obviously brick and mortar, your own restaurant, is going to be the next most expensive. That's going to vary widely as well. I opened my own restaurant many, many years back. One of the things that we did to make sure we kept our costs down is we were really careful about the equipment that we got. We made sure that we didn't buy a lot of fancy stuff that we didn't need. Whether you've got an architect maybe designing your layout, I would say really, unless you've been in the industry, talk with some chefs or some business owners and say, do I really need all this? And sometimes you can buy used equipment. Some used equipment, I'd say go for it. If it's gas equipment and it looks pretty good, I'd say go for it. If it's electrical, not as much, just because there's a lot more that can go wrong with electrical equipment, condensers and things like that versus gas equipment. Gas equipment's pretty straightforward. It's kind of like plumbing. So I would just say be very careful of that, but be careful to only really get what you need. Everything doesn't have to be all fancy and shiny and brand new, because a lot of money can be spent opening a restaurant and buying brand new everything. So just a side note there, but it's going to depend on, what kind of place you have. I don't know if you folks are familiar with Saltbox Seafood Joint. One of my favorite chefs in the area, he started with a small little walk-up location in Durham that had been restaurants before that had failed. And Ricky Moore went in and just presented himself. He's one of my favorite people to really tout and say he's amazing, because I love Ricky Moore too. He is the best. He is 100% happy to share with people as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to him either for help and suggestions. And you can tell him I sent people his way. But what he did is he knew what he wanted to do. He knew his brand. He set his colors, and that followed through everything from the umbrellas that he had to his picnic tables. And he would have a line of people, and he didn't rush his food. He did an amazing job every time. He put his own little twist on everything that he did, from his slaw not being like your typical slaw to his containers. Like, he thought about every single piece of it. And that's what he's a phenomenal chef. But really paying attention to his business is really what made him successful. It wasn't because, people say location, location, location. And yeah, you can have an amazing $10,000 a month or a higher rent and have an amazing location. But if everything else doesn't work, it's not going to guarantee your success. And he had this phenomenal little spot that had bombed many times before, and he just blew it away. And of course, as you know, he's got another location, and he's got people calling him every week saying, "Hey, come open up over here." And who knows? You probably will see another place of his before long. But anyway, the point being, he knew who he was. It's important to know who you are, what you want to do, stay true to your concept. And you don't have to be outlandish to be amazing. So just let Ricky Moore be an inspiration. Again, pick his brain if you want to. He's a great resource. But that's what I would say, like, know what you want to do. It's interesting because I've talked to some other people who've gone into the industry who I would say, and how do I want to phrase this, who I would say don't have the passion for cooking and food that I do, that still want to do it. And so what's interesting to me about that is, I think, what motivates you? What makes you want to do what you're doing? I think that's, again, I can't stress that enough, to understand what it is that you want to do and why you want to do it. You can also, one other route you can go to, and she was at the event as well, Nathaniel, is Piedmont. The rest of the name's going to escape me. Yeah,
the Piedmont Food Processing Center.
Yes, Piedmont Food Processing.
Like a large type of commissary, right?
Yes, so she has a commissary, but she also is dedicated to helping people who maybe want to make sauces or products that can be resold at retail. And she's a phenomenal asset, and I think we should include her in the email. So there's just so many different avenues to go down. And that's another avenue that you can get into with less cost, if that's what you want to do, like retail type products to consumers. Or even, we buy at SYSCO, we buy a lot of local products, of course, not in retail sizes, but in bulk sizes. So if you're making retail and you want to get into food service, you just do it in like gallon containers. And, there's opportunity to sell to folks like SYSCO, who can then in turn sell to rest avenue that you can go down. When you're looking at these different avenues, again, we talk about the hazardous materials that really the health department they're going to probably be the most governing body for most of the food service industry. Like I said, very, very few things are handled by the Department of Agriculture. So the health department, you want to make an ally for you. And like I said, you can reach out to them and they can help you answer a lot of questions that you might have. One of the other big things I want to talk about, just because it is a concern right now, is when you're looking at what you want to do, to consider one, as we talked about, the labor force. Can you find the people to help you produce whatever it is that you want to do? If you can do it yourself, that's great. If you're going to need labor, just know that there's a shortage. I don't care what you're going to pay people. There's just not enough people right now looking at our industry to come into our industry. So just be aware of that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So something that you want to, if you think you need X, Y, or Z number of people, that you start maybe reaching out to people that you know now to see who can come help you, whether it's full-time or part-time. The other thing is, with the pandemic, there is a shortage of everything. And I say everything. I know that sounds like a little bit of an exaggeration, but quite honestly, it's not. And if it's available, it's more expensive now than it's ever been. And so I want you to go into that with your eyes wide open. So let's just say, for instance, you want to have a restaurant and you're like, that's fine. I can charge whatever I want to charge. All good. Be aware that equipment is on short supply. So even if you need something as mundane as a fryer, some of the lead times on equipment are anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to 6 months or more on back order. It's bad. It's a good thing, I guess, that business kind of seems to be booming in our industry, but the struggle is real in trying to get whatever it is into your business. If you were looking for stuff with your logo on it, almost non-existent, because the manufacturers that used to do logoed cups or bags or whatever it might be are struggling just to keep up with production of regular products, much less things that are name branded. Just another thing to be aware of. Food cost. It's been really kind of shocking to me to see how everything that's affected food cost. When the pandemic first hit, and, I don't know if you remember, but even the grocery stores had a hard time getting chicken and beef. It wasn't because there weren't cows and chickens out there. It was because obviously the pandemic, people were sick. They had to, be 6 feet apart. Well, things have not caught back up, and production has not caught back up to where it needs to be. And there's still, socially distancing in a lot of these places. Feed has gone up. Transportation, as we all know, gas prices are crazy. Diesel prices are even worse. So to get a product from the manufacturer to wherever has doubled and tripled and almost goes up weekly. That has been a huge effect on prices in the industry. This is another kind of crazy one that you may not think about. So we all know about the war in the Ukraine. Well, apparently a lot of fertilizer, or the manure for the fertilizer that we use in agriculture, comes from the Ukraine. They're struggling to get the product, and the prices again are astronomical. So I got this information from my French fry purveyor, one of the largest one called Lamb Wesson. They said the crop of potatoes that were planted, and I don't know if you know, potatoes are usually harvested once a year, like around September, October. And it was the most expensive crop of potatoes that have ever been planted in history. And not that that's a big deal, because, you figure things go up and maybe each year, but they said like really expensive. And even if it's a stellar crop, that they'll be the most expensive potatoes that they've ever harvested. So that's just going to blow up the price of French fries, which normally for people is a pretty inexpensive thing to have. And it still is, but it's not like it used to be. I mean, we're talking double the price in some instances of what it was 4 years ago. That's huge, to go from paying $25 a case for something to pay $50 or $60 for that same item. Again, while it still might be a decent price on a plate to serve, that's a lot of profit to lose, or a lot of increase to pass on. So that's across everything. We are starting to see a few things lighten up a little bit, like oil, they say. Maybe gas prices are going to go down a little. If it were me planning a menu right now, whatever food cost I could get right now, I would go ahead and at least add 10% onto that to just do a buffer, because even in normal times, 5 to 10% increase over the course of a year is not abnormal. And so that's definitely something to take into consideration. And chicken wings, let's say, if you want to open a wing place, just be aware chicken wings are as high as they've ever been. Chicken is as high as it's ever been. And they're not hard to come by. You can get them. But because of supply and demand, there is so much demand, the prices are going to remain high. So, I mean, if you're looking, you might want to reach out to someone like me or some other food service purveyor, or heck, run to Restaurant Depot and kind of go, let me take a look. Like, here's my options. I'm thinking about these 10 items. Let me just go to one of these places or reach out to Nan and find out kind of what costs are like right now these days. It might help you decide which avenue you want to go down. And I'll be happy to help you with that and kind of give you some insight. You can go, it's a little bit hard to understand, but you can go to the, what is it? I'll have to get this link, Nathaniel, but it's basically a website where it's the federal, where all the pricing is. My mind's a blank, but it's a little harder. It's a little kind of a geeky website. Like it's so much information. There are actually links through helpKNX, through market reports that take you right into the website for like chicken and produce and stuff like that. So you're welcome to go to my website, to the helpful resources tab under market reports. And it kind of it basically tells you like what the price of chicken is trading for this week. So again, it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to pay. You're going to pay more than that. That just means that would be the price that maybe SYSCO pays from Sanderson Poultry. And then of course we have to bring it in, mark it up and sell it to you. So, but it kind of gives you a gauge of, where the prices are going up and down, and it can be pretty shocking, but anyway, that's a consideration. Bring up some
questions to you, Nan, before they get too far down. So some of them related to something we were talking about previously. The first one was related to the HACCP. If you don't, I looked it up just to make sure I'm not. You know what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you need that when you work with a commissary kitchen, or do they? I assume they have that.
So
only if
HACCP is pretty specific. Not everything has to have a HACCP regulation around it. So most of the folks working out of the commissaries don't have any HACCP plans. And honestly, I've helped a customer get HACCP plans only because one of the people that he was going to sell to, it's a humongous corporation called Aramark, and they wanted his HACCP plan. It's basically a safety plan of how everything is prepared, not normal in everyday businesses. So again, at Piedmont Kitchen, I'm having a hard time talking now. Piedmont Commissary, she can probably speak a little more to that if you need some of that. But that's not a typical thing for most businesses.
What about and just let me throw this in there, that what she's mentioning with the Piedmont Food Processing Center, if you're in Orange County, they can help anyone in Orange County. They're an excellent resource for that, or for just information. They're usually full. But they still will help you. They'll give you some guidance. And the lady that manages it, Sue Ellsworth, she also has a nonprofit called We Power Foods, and it's specifically geared towards women in the food industry. So great place to go and check out. I put it in the chat as well. The other question was related to food truck build and how you said to specify it and make sure it works with the state you're in.
Right.
If you move, I would say most likely there's going to be some things you'll have to change. The question is related to what is the possibility that you have to reconfigure, spend more money with the new state's regulation?
Or
what about traveling to a location in another state just to service an event, maybe.
You can do that. So that you can do because it's based on where your commissary is. So if your commissary is here in Raleigh or Durham or wherever, you can travel outside, but the truck is still certified here in Durham. So that's fine. Nowadays, I would say that there's little silly sort of nuances, like, for instance, in your sink. It's important that the sink doesn't have any sharp edges where stuff can get stuck. It's got to be rounded. So most of those things people who are building trucks know. I would say if you have to make any changes, it wouldn't be significant for the health department. It would be small, but again, they may, let's just say it's the, what do you call they call the water that, so you have to have a water source, right? And then it drains into like the dirty water tank. There may be a better name for it, but they may say, well, no, you've got to actually have a bigger water tank than that. So little things like that. Again, I don't know that it shouldn't be anything humongous. Like they won't say you can't use that fryer as long as stuff's NSF approved, which it should be anyway. NSF is just an approval that comes with a sticker. Any equipment that you get really that anybody in North Carolina is going to approve will be an NSF approved equipment. That should work in any state. It would just be, I think, subtle little things like that. Like, okay, you need to move your hand soap further away, or just little things like that. Maybe they would require a different light in your truck or something. But if you think you might be going to a different area, you might just reach out to their state. You can, again, go online and find all this and just find what their food truck regulations are and just kind of see if there's anything that that sticks out. Again, I would reach out to them. Let's just say you think you might go to Tennessee, call them and say, hey, I'm getting a food truck here. I might move to Tennessee in a year. Are there any things that, you're seeing that are blatant that people are having issues with when they're putting together their food truck? They should 100% help you with that. But
I think that's also anytime. Well, not anytime, but a lot of people that are talking about food and regulation constantly will tell you, call the county or the state health department. I mean, just make the phone calls and you'll get somebody that will have answers. And it's a lot easier than trying to sift through huge documents of food safety and food regulation online. They're really big and long, and you may not even understand it. Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I've done with, like, when I've tried to help some of my customers that I work with through SYSCO is whether it's the health department or the building department or whatever, after you have that conversation, get that person's email and just, or have them email you and just, document whatever they've said, that like, hey, I got approval for this, or here's page 27, of the plan that says that that's okay. And that way you've got it in writing from somebody on an official email. I don't know. I haven't had anybody actually have any issues with any of that, but it's always good just to dot your I's and cross your T's. So
one more question. It's very specific, but it relates to grease traps. And she says, can you explain grease traps? When are they necessary? Size options? What is the nuance of the grease trap? I guess it would be different in a food truck versus a restaurant.
Yes. So I'm trying to think. I do not believe you need a grease trap in a food truck. You didn't when I had one. The purpose of the grease trap is, if you can imagine in your house, I don't know if you've ever had the issue. I've got a septic tank and so sometimes I've had to come and get the thing rooted out because it's got grease in it. And so the building department or the community doesn't want all of this grease if you're going to have a fryer, if you're going to have grease products. And if you're not, you probably don't need a grease trap. They don't want that just to get washed out into everything else. They want it to get filtered, that the bulk of it. So what happens is they have cheaper ones now, but it used to be like, mine was like this sort of a cast iron, huge thing. And what happens is from your sink or your dish machine or whatever, the water comes down and it goes into this grease trap box. And what happens is the water continues to go out the grease falls down. And so then you have to come in monthly or whatever and clean out that grease trap and get the grease out so that they can continue to collect more. So basically it catches a big amount of the grease so it doesn't just go out into the wastewater, and helps the wastewater not be as contaminated. So there's a lot of different ones. If you're getting a place that's already an existing place, like a brick and mortar place, chances are they have a grease trap already in there, grandfathered in, hopefully. It used to be they had to be in the ground. Again, Ricky Moore with Salt Box is a great example of, he found one that he got approved that is above ground. I think it's plastic and not metal, and it was a lot less expensive. So again, it just depends on where you are and what you're going to do. If you go into Kitchen Archive or go into a commissary, they've got that all handled. You don't have to do anything. It's only really the grease trap, I believe. And I just double check that for food trucks. But like I said, because your water in your food truck is contained, I don't think they worry about that, although it does end up getting emptied into an outside drain. Anyway, they just haven't done that on grease traps on trucks that I'm aware of. But I can try to clarify that before we send out an email.
But your commissary is going to be kind of the place where that water is going to be dumped, and it's going to probably trap the grease some way or another, I would assume. Right.
At the commissary, yes. But you can, if you want to have a food truck, you can have a regular restaurant as your commissary.
Mm-hmm.
So I've found that to be difficult. That's what I did with my food truck. The problem I found was the restaurant's pretty busy, and there's typically not a lot of extra space for you to work or store stuff unless they have it set up for that. But you can do that. And again, that's probably the cheapest route. You can say, if you know somebody, you can say, hey, Nathaniel, I'll pay you $300 to let me say you're my commissary. And then the health department comes in and says, hey, Nathaniel, is Nan working out of your place? Yep, she sure is. And then I never am able to, but you're like, but you can't really work here. Like you really can't, So that's not really great. I don't think you would find it efficient either. When I tried to do that, I found that although I could cook on the food truck, that was fine. I could prep on the food truck. I didn't have anywhere to get my drinks cold. I didn't have anywhere to get my food deliveries. It's just not convenient. The other thing about the restaurant commissary is, again, they have to have a place out back, like an outside mop sink, if you will, so that you can wash your truck out and clean your truck and drain the water out. So they do have to have that. So you can't have just any restaurant be your commissary. But I wouldn't worry too much about a grease trap unless you're looking at a brick and mortar place. And then
it's going to be a county regulation too, right? A grease trap or any of that building requirements would generally be with the county health department. Yes. I mean, truthfully, county. I mean, the county is the one who's going to come and do the inspection, but the regulations are state regulations. Okay. But again, we're just kind of talking honest here. It's going to depend on who comes and does your inspection. It's just like when the health department comes out to your restaurant, you'll hear restaurants say, oh my gosh, they're, rough on us here in Wake County, or they're, easy on us out in Person County. The regulations are the same, but you got to make that people happy in the county that you're in. So really, I would reach out to the county who's going to approve of your food truck or your commissary or your restaurant or whatever, because they're the ones who are going to do the inspection. That's all the questions right now. If you have questions specific to your situation, put them in the chat and we'll talk about them.
Yeah. So I was just wanted to add a couple of other quick things again about the menu consideration and products and equipment. Like I said, I think that we can put a lot of roadblocks up worrying about things like grease. And I'm not saying don't worry, like grease traps. And I had somebody the other day who said, I was going to try to get my some certification done. They said, but I didn't know what something was. I can't remember what the thing. And it's really just I think it was an article of, was it Articles of Incorporation? Something. sometimes it is good to get an attorney to do things. Usually they do some of these things like helping you set up your LLC or your corporation pretty cheaply. And they know the route to go. I think it's well worth spending a little bit of money to have them help with that sort of stuff. And they kind of put it all in one nice little bundle. They'll get you your state, your federal, all those tax numbers done, and they can set your business up. I would say that really is the first place to start. And then from there, just start kind of slowly, without spending much or any money, just start moving down some paths and sort of feel what feels right to you. If you feel like you don't really know right away what you want to do or which way you want to go or how much money you want to spend. Because I've found that if I start to do that, things become apparent. You go, that feels right, or it doesn't feel right, or, oh, that's, that, I don't know if I want to make that kind of commitment. And so gently kind of try not to let those roadblocks get in the way. And again, just reach out and make phone calls. I think it's easy to go, I don't know, and I can't do it. I'm here to help. Like I said, Nathaniel's here to help. And if we can't get the answer, we certainly know where we can get the answer. And again, reach out to people like Ricky Moore and other businesses. Walk up to see a food truck. If you're thinking about a food truck, go buy something in a food truck and pick their brain. How's it been? What have you, what's been the roadblocks for you? But what I will say is, when you're looking at what you want to do, it is important in your business plan to decide what you want this to be for you. And what I mean by that is like, how much money do you want it to make for you? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they felt like doing a little hot dog cart was probably pretty easy for them. I said, yeah, it probably is easy. The cart's not as expensive as a food truck. It's, you're kind of focused on one thing. I said, and I'm not trying to encourage or discourage anybody from anything, but I said, here's what you need to consider. If you want to do hot dogs or sausages or whatever, know what your price point's going to be and know what your food cost is going to be. So if you go out and sell, let's just say you sell this everything hot dog for $3 and your profit's $1 or $1.50, and you sell 200 hot dogs a day and you're out there for X many hours, are you happy with that? Is that going to be okay for you? Or you're going to be like, wow, okay, so I'm only really going to make $150 or $300 and I'm out here for 5 hours. Well, and if you are, that's great. And if you aren't, then just, you need to know that. And I think that that's the other thing in consideration of what you want to do. Obviously, there's a lot more money and time at risk having a brick and mortar place. There's a lot more money to be had. But a commissary, again, you've got a lot more outlets to go. So just little things to think about. Like I said, you might think, oh, I can sell hot dogs or sausages or whatever, ice cream. I mean, but you have to consider your time and your effort and your cost and what your return on that is actually going to pocket you. And if you are going to be happy and stay passionate about that. And if you are, then keep moving down the path.
Can you just walk us through the cottage laws? I don't know if that's how they specify them here in North Carolina, but the cooking at home, what is it that you can do? And as I understand it, you can cook anything that you could store on a shelf for at least a week, let's say. It's shelf stable.
Yes. So there is a really good list of those on the Department of Agriculture. I probably am not as well versed as I could be in that. But again, it's those things that, I always think baking items. So, bread, even if a bread goes moldy, it's not going to hurt you, as long as you're not putting like ham and cheese in your bread. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be things that aren't going to be easily perishable. That's really the bottom line, is things that aren't easily perishable, or that if they're perishable, they won't make someone sick. If you want to I
think you can't make a certain amount of money per year. If you make more, you have to have an inspection of your kitchen, and then it starts getting complicated, and it's not a lot of money, as I understand it.
Well, I thought to produce anything, I mean, I guess you can sell to your friends and stuff, but I thought to produce anything to sell to the public, you had to have the inspection anyway through the Department of Agriculture to produce any. I thought you either had to have a health permit or Department of Agriculture. And either way, they'll come out and do the inspection. And there's things about pets. and like sinks and all that sort of stuff. Like the kitchen has to be set up a certain way and in a certain part of the house. And like I said, like no pets around. There's lots of different regulations around that. And I apologize, I don't know as much as I could know about that, but there is a link that, and actually it's pretty clear on their website. That is one of the websites that's pretty clear.
I'll make sure to include that in the post email though.
Yep, I can help you find that link.
There's another. This is an interesting question, especially since you're with helpKNX. But it says, with staffing challenges being common, what would you suggest for looking for a restaurant manager instead of outside of just friends and family and word of mouth?
Again, post it on the website. I can tell you that, of course, I'll make a plug for my website. So because my website's free, you can post as often and as many times as you want. You can obviously post on the other job boards as well. I would say that what I've found people get the best response from is sort of what it is that you bring to the table or your business has to offer that others don't. In particular, I saw one of my customers that posted said that they were doing a, what did they call it? They called it I can't remember the term for it, but every 30 days, if you didn't miss a day, like you got an extra so many dollars an hour or 50 cents an hour or something, and different things like that, that people are doing, providing health insurance, sign-on bonus, different things that you can provide that maybe others aren't providing, opportunities. Maybe it's, if you come on as a manager, if you work with us for 90 days or 120 days, we'll start maybe profit sharing with you, if whatever it is, but kind of coming up with things that will make people notice your business and want to come work for you versus somewhere else.
Making partnerships.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what we have to do, is create value for our employees. Maybe you say, hey, look, we're going to provide 2 weeks vacation and sick days. I mean, flexible schedules. I know that's another one that's huge right now. I mean, they say that, I think the new thing is to provide a 4-day work week. So maybe people work 4, 10 or 12, 10 hour days and then have 3 days off. Like, that's huge. So,
that is huge.
Just trying to think outside the box. Like, imagine working for yourself. Like, what would you like? What would make you want to come work for you? What kind of benefits would be helpful?
Here's one. It's a little bit specific. I think it's related to another state, but it says, is it a bad time to invest in seafood restaurants, food truck cost wise specifically?
Is it a bad time to invest in like a seafood food truck?
Mm-hmm. Because of, I guess, I think she's relating it to Michigan. So
I may not be aware of what's going on up in Michigan specifically. I mean, so much of the fish that, believe it or not, that we get here in this country, and seafood in general, comes from other countries. Prices have gone up. We get a lot of seafood from China and Thailand, Indonesia. So it probably depends on what kind of seafood you're looking at having. I mean, domestic is more expensive anyway, just because we charge more here. People get paid more here than in the other countries. But I haven't seen a lot of seafood shortages. I know we had some issues with crab meat for a while. That seems to be softening a little bit. So that I've seen, I don't see really any issues. I'll tell you, one of the things that SYSCO's done that, again, we've been trying to do for our customers is trying to find what we call value added seafood items. So imagine this. We process, or companies process, salmon, right? So you clean the salmon and then they portion it to all sorts of different sizes, 4 ounce or 6 ounce or 8 ounce. Well, there's always leftover pieces, and there's what they call cheek meat, and there's different, what we call, again, byproducts. And SYSCO is starting to find and buy more of those things so that you have these smaller pieces, and they cost a lot less because they're, again, it's great product, nothing wrong with it. It's just not a nice portion piece. And then you can put 5 or 6 pieces on a plate, and, you just have to kind of get creative. And so those things are out there as well. And SYSCO is trying to find more of those for our customers so that we can help get great products out there at a better price point. So I don't see any issues. but maybe there's something happening.
It's part of what you were saying before about making sure you're doing what you want to do, what makes you happy. If seafood is what makes you happy, do some investigation in your locale. You know, where is the seafood coming from? What is the best option? How much does it cost? Does it make sense? Are there going to be people interested in buying it? And
so the other thing about seafood, again, back to my guy, Ricky, he doesn't commit himself to, I think he's got a few regular things that he has, but he absolutely does seasonal stuff. And so, you know, if you create your menu and you can create it he doesn't have a menu, but he actually puts like market prices up there, I believe. You can do market prices for some of your seafood if you feel like prices are going to change. And then just have, you know, maybe, you know, for this month, you've got, you know, a really great price on pollock, or maybe just being a little bit flexible. But Nathaniel's exactly right. If that's what you're passionate about, just let us help you figure out how we can help you get to what you want to do. It may not be exactly what you're looking at. Maybe you wanted to have salmon, but maybe now you're going to have it a different way or whatever. Or just be a little bit more flexible with the types of seafood that you're offering and change it up.
Here's one, again, related to helpKNX. It says our temp agency is a good source for hiring since they do the vetting and take care of wages, taxes, medical benefits. What is your thought on that? Kind of outsourcing your hiring.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can. I know some people that do it. I've seen people do it more for like catering if they needed people like, you know, just part-time. Like I've got a hotel that uses them because they don't always have catering. So they'll reach out and kind of have them, and they have their regular people. I don't know as many restaurants that do that, but you certainly could give it a try. I feel like for me, I would want to give, because obviously when you hire an agency like that, part of that money goes to the agency, understandably. I would love to give that money directly to the employee. I think, obviously you can eventually hire them on, but that's just what I would rather do. But if you feel like you're stuck and you're really not getting anything, absolutely. You can do that versus, I know people who put so many ads on Indeed and some of the other ones and have just spent literally thousands of dollars and gotten maybe applicants, but had one customer said they'd spent over $12,000 in 2021. And they said out of the applicants that they got and people that they interviewed and hired, only 2 of them still work there. $12,000.
Wow.
That's a lot. So if you're struggling, I would do that versus spending thousands of dollars to put out job ads. But like I said, put it on my website. We'll help. We get the word out. We do social media. We'll help get the word out. Let us know what you're offering different from everybody else so that we can kind of spotlight you. That's going to be the key right now. And the cool thing is about that is the more we spotlight people and the more people are doing sort of maybe better or out of the box type things, the more people are going to look at this industry and go, oh, maybe I need to take another look at the hospitality industry. Or maybe it's time for me to go back, because there's a lot of people that love it that have left for lots of different reasons. Toxic culture, bad pay. So let me know. I'll help spotlight you.
Okay, Donna, one moment. This is Phyllis from the Women's Business Center. How are you?
Hey.
Hey. I have a question. If someone contacted you and they were based out of, let's say, Florida, you still would assist them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm willing to help. Yeah. This is the hospitality business. Let's be hospitable. Doesn't matter where you are. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. And good to see you.
Good to see you. Of course, I can't say that I will have as much information about specifics and specific things, but again, I'm a pretty good little digger. I can certainly find it if I don't know it off the top of my head. Happy to help.
Okay. Thank you.
Great My stuff. Pleasure. I'm going to put all the information back in the chat with contacting us and Nan as well. It's there again, but this will all be in the post email. So look for that. I think we're going to wrap it up. If anybody has a question, I mean, it's 1 o'clock already, so I don't want to keep anybody over. Thank you, Nan, for being with us. I appreciate this. I think it's great information.
Thank you for having me.
There's always something to learn. There's always something else another route to take to find the information. But yeah, we're going to put together a list of stuff. Nan and I are going to email it to you with additional resources, places to investigate, where to look for certain things. A lot of it is on government websites like the FDA's website or the North Carolina Health Department website and the Department of Agriculture. They have good stuff. It's a lot of reading, but I think that's part of this stage, especially in the beginning. If you want to close us out, Nan, with whatever else you want to say, and I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate everybody being here as well. And I absolutely love this industry. And like I said, and Nathaniel was saying, sometimes it's a lot of reading and it can be daunting and seem like a roadblock, but please just know you've got lots of resources and just reach out to us and we can kind of help, clear away some of the dust and help you move forward, and more than happy to do that. And I appreciate y'all letting me be here today. And thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.